All right, so welcome to our webinar. Sorry for the little technical difficulty. The folks watching the replay will have no idea what happened, but we will be recording this and sending everybody the replay. If you can't stay the whole time or you want to listen to it or forward it to someone else, you just let me know. I'll be monitoring the chat. I'll be monitoring the questions as we go. So just type them into the box. I'll do my best to look for them as they come through. And formal remarks, about 40 minutes, give or take, and then we'll get into some questions. We've had a couple of questions submitted beforehand. I'll get to those first. Here's my email address. If you have a question or a comment or anything down the road, you just let me know. We have a lot of people on. We've got over 257 at the moment, so hopefully you guys will stay with me. Got some good value for you today. If you know me and my webinars, these are not big come-ons for other stuff. It's really just teaching. Here's a free item for you. It's my latest e-guide. If you're interested in multiplying your best clients, just go to client multiplication and you'll get this for free. So clientmultiplication.com and you'll get this new e-guide for free. I'll mention that a couple times as we go. There is no handout for this. I will not be making the slides available per se, but I will be sending the replay, so you certainly have an option to go check it again if you want to capture something that you missed. So here's the agenda for today. I want to start with some elements of a great value proposition. We're going to be talking about, obviously, our value proposition at holiday events, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, you name it, whatever's coming up for you. But it's important that you have a little bit of a context and basis for this. It's all based on my new book, Radical Relevance. It'll be coming out next year. And then we're going to dive into the subject at hand about how we adjust and adapt that for social situations, because it really is different in social situations. You can't come on too heavy. On the other hand, you don't want to just dismiss what you do. And then I'm going to share with you kind of a new thing we've got, a way for you to pick my brain about how you communicate your value. It's a simple thing. We offered it last year. And then we're going to wind up with how to talk to friends about setting up a meeting to discuss business. I know that's a frequent question I get asked. How do I talk to my friends and the people I grew up with, or I've known this guy forever or this gal forever? And there's no magic bullet here, but I certainly will give you a few ideas. So that's our agenda. So a few important basics around communicating your value. What we do know is that, our prospects' brains are overwhelmed, right? In fact, it's been estimated that everybody gets about 3,000 marketing messages every 24 hours, which if you figure 7 hours of sleep, it comes down to about 3 every minute. So we know that our brains are overloaded. So, how do you get your messages through to prospects, to clients? If you leave a voicemail, if you send an email, well, the key is you got to hit the bullseye in their brain in a way that resonates, with a very relevant message, and it compels them to take action. And the more narrow, the more targeted, the better. The mistake that most people make is they're too general when they talk about their value, and because of that, it resonates with no one. So I get asked, Bill, are you talking about, when you talk about value proposition, you're talking about elevator pitch? Well, not really. I mean, we are going to go into some short ways to talk about your value. That's the whole point of this. But before we do that, we have to understand really what a value proposition is and how you come up with the short stuff to say, right? You don't come up with the short stuff to say and then figure out what your value prop is. It goes the other way around. So here's an exercise I really strongly recommend that you do this. The people who have done this have found great value from this exercise I'm about to give you around formulating your full value proposition. So, where do we communicate our full value? Well, everywhere, right? Anytime you're talking about the business you do, somehow you're communicating. And if you have people that work with you, for you, they're talking about it too. And one of the key things you want to do is have everybody in your firm be on the same page, right? It doesn't have to be exact same words by everybody, but the feeling, the essence, the sense has to be the same. So when we communicate our value, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we just trying to talk about what we do, or are we trying to attract people? Well, I would say that we're trying to attract people. The mistake that people make is when they talk about their value, they're not doing it in terms of attraction. They say, I'm a financial advisor, I'm an insurance agent, et cetera, but there's no design to create attraction. And so we want to attract the right fit clients, right? The clients that are right for us. And we also want to repel or disqualify the ones that aren't right for us. Now, if you're brand new in this business, okay, if they fog a mirror, meaning they're breathing, you'll talk to them. I get that. But eventually you get to a place where you want to make sure you attract the right people. That's why leads are a recipe for mediocrity in this business, because leads quite often don't target the exact right people with the right message, and things get all messed up from there. And you want to make sure that you talk in a way that creates action, right? That compels them, that moves them to take action. Think about it as an electric motor. Electric motor, alternating current, there's the magnets and there's the coil, and they're constantly generating this energy that makes it flow to the point where a crankshaft will turn smoothly. I don't want to get over electrical engineering on you here, but what happens with how we talk about our value is you got to be irrelevant so people will pay attention, and then you got to be compelling to move them to take action. And that relevance and compelling has to continue. I call it compellivant, right? We have to be compellivant in how we talk about our value, but ultimately determine the right fit. There's a lot of talk these days about what makes you different in the marketplace, what makes you distinctive. Do you know what makes you different? And I'm not going to say that that's not important, but it's useless unless you attach it to a benefit, right? What makes your difference valuable? That's what your clients want to know. That's what your prospects want to know. What makes you different? How is that valuable to those people? And people talk about what makes them different, but they don't translate it to benefits and to value for their prospects. And all that work on differentiation really goes for naught. So we want to attract the right people. We want to disqualify the wrong people. We want to create action. We want to determine fit. That's what we want to do in our value proposition. So the exercise I mentioned is, first of all, what's the web address for the ebook? It's multiply your clients, multiplyyourclients.com. It'll come up again. So trace your client journey. Do it by yourself if you're solo, if you have staff, if you have support staff, if you're part of a larger firm, whatever is appropriate. And what you want to do is you want to take these 3 points or three unequal parts of your value proposition and figure out all the different places you create value. So with your prospects, the prospect experience, what are some of the things you teach? What are some of the questions you ask that create value? With your new clients, how do you onboard them? Do you onboard them in a way that continues to create value for them, teaches, educates, gets them thinking in ways they haven't thought before? And the ongoing experience, all the various things that you do that create value. And then what happens is first of all, when you get everybody in your firm on the same page with this, it's amazing all the points of value that people will come up with. And this is how everyone in a firm can get excited about the work that you deliver and why you should be multiplying your best clients because of the value that you bring. But before you start to turn this into messaging that you might put on your website or a brochure or an email or a voicemail or anything you might say, you want to talk to your clients first. Please never, ever, ever develop marketing messaging without running some of it by your clients. First of all, they will give you things that you would never think about. I remember I had one of my clients, Michael Schmitz, out in San Mateo, California, said, "Bill, you make asking for referrals as natural as breathing." Now, I never would have thought of saying that. He said that, and of course, now it goes everywhere with quote marks from Michael Schmitz. And so you learn stuff, but then also, sometimes we talk in jargony ways that we don't even realize it. We don't realize we're talking with jargon. And I was just doing a coaching call this morning with a client who was running his value proposition by me. And there were some things in there that were clearly not the words that our clients would be using when they talk about what we do for them. And that's what we want to get into. We want to get into client speak. We want to hit the bullseye in their brain and match the words that they're using. So we always want to talk to our clients before we develop anything. So I got a little pop quiz for you here. You don't have to click anything. This is really something I did all last year as I was speaking to lots of audiences, and I kept track of the numbers. And, have you ever stopped to identify all the different ways and places you provide value to your prospects and clients? And 16% said yes, 82% said no. So this is a very underutilized strategy or a process to help you really feel great about the value and then be able to take that and articulate it to people in a lot of different ways. So I really want to recommend you do that. What is the absolute single most important ingredient in getting referrals, introductions from clients, friends, family, and centers of influence? What is the one thing you got to do more than anybody, anything else to make sure that these people refer you? Well, it's to be referable, right? Are you referable? Well, if you're referable, you're getting referrals without asking for them. Unsolicited referrals is a barometer. But the key to referability is client engagement, where we interact, we connect with our clients on the points of value, the questions we ask, the things we teach, and then we also make a human connection. And what happens is when you create this sense of engagement with our value and with us, and then you leverage that, asking for referrals and all the things I've been teaching for 25 years, and then you get connected, you get introduced to your new prospect, then this continues forever. So the key is becoming referable. To get referrals from family, from friends, from natural market, from centers of influence, from clients, you have to be referable, and that's all about engagement. Now, one of the most powerful ways to create engagement, and this is all going to come into messaging in a minute. You'll see how we're going to pull on some of this into the messaging, so stay with me. Anyway, is your client-focused why, your client-centered why. Now, maybe you got in this business because you can make a lot of money and you like working with finances and you have free time, control over your schedule, but that's a you-centered why. I'm talking about a client-focused, a client benefit why. So I'll give you an example. Carol Upshur out in the West Coast, I was listening to a webinar. I was talking about this idea of a client-focused why, and she latched onto that. She knew what her why was, but she hadn't been using it. And in the next couple of days after the webinar, she started using it with prospects and clients, and she got 8 unsolicited referrals. She didn't even ask. She just started talking about why she did what she did. And it goes something like this. In a nutshell, she had got some bad financial advice. She and her husband got some bad financial advice. They lost some money. They regroup. They get back on their feet. She decides to enter the world of being a financial advisor and is doing quite well now. And so what she does is she talks about what she does and how she does it, and then she shifts to the why. So she says to her prospects, usually you want to do it with your prospects because it creates a connection with prospects early in the relationship. She'll say, that's a little bit about what we do and how we do it. Let me shift gears for a second and tell you a little bit about why I do what I do. And then she tells just a little bit of the story of how she got some bad advice and how it was a tough time for a while. And she says, what drives me every day, my goal is to make sure that what happened to me or anything remotely like it never happens to anybody else that I work with. And that's just sharing that little piece of herself and being more human and creating that human connection gets people giving her referrals without asking. They share their why. When we share our why, they share their why. It's just the way it works. So it's a very powerful thing to do. So please make sure you're sharing your why, your client-focused why. And in a minute, I will show you how that plays into when you're at a holiday table. I wish we could have done this before Thanksgiving, by the way, but we just couldn't get it in the schedule. But hopefully you still have some opportunities to come out. And what we're about to talk about here, this really applies to any situation. It just happens to be timely with a holiday approaching. So another question that I asked as I spoke throughout the entire year, do you have a client-focused why? And here are the numbers of the people in the audience. We found that 67% had one, 30% hadn't really thought of it yet. So, that's pretty good, 67%. But here's the startling statistic, is that 25% used it, talked to their prospects and clients. 73% didn't do it. You are sitting on a gold mine of opportunity to create a human connection with anybody at a social event or in a business event. Why you do what you do, your client-focused why. And I'll show you how that kind of plays out in the formula I'm about to give you. But this is one of the most powerful things. And this is not a new concept. You've probably heard this before. Just make sure you have it. Make sure you use it. People listen to this differently because there's usually a story involved. And people listen to stories differently. Now, it can't be a long, droning story that doesn't seem to have any point to it. It's got to be pretty concise, but it usually is a story. All right, so that's just some basics of things I wanted to make sure I got out to you. And let's get into the communicating the value in the social situations, right? Oh, by the way, there's the free guide that I mentioned, clientmultiplication.com. All right, clientmultiplication.com. I got to move this thing here so I can see better. All right, there we go. All right, guys. So the classic question, what do you do? Right? The dreaded, what do you do? How do you answer that? Right? Do you revert to your elevator pitch? That's the first mistake that I've seen, especially in social situations, right? Reverting to your elevator pitch where, well, I'm a financial professional. I work with individuals and couples who want to maximize their financial risk and minimize their financial risk, maximize their investment, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that isn't important information, but not in a social setting, right? Especially not right off the bat where your sister's new beau says, so what do you do? And then you launch into your elevator pitch. The other mistake is going too far to the other side, right? Being overly modest. Well, I work in finance, pass the potatoes. I'm a business consultant. More wine? I'm a business coach. Did you see the game last night? It's what we don't want to do is we don't want to minimize, right? And we don't want to overkill people either. There's a happy medium we've got to find. Another question that you get quite frequently from people who know you or don't know you at social events, how's business? Well, again, reverting to an elevator pitch type response, fantastic. I'm doing great work for my clients. You and I should have a conversation about your financial future. You keep your schedule on your phone. You're like going for the kill too quickly. You don't want to do that, especially in a social situation. Again, the same mistake here is going too far on the other side, right? Well, business is good. Thanks for asking. Do you mind if I change the channel to catch the game? It's like we don't want to diminish the value and we don't want to overkill people, right? So you're saying, all right, Mr. Know-it-all, what do you suggest? What is that happy medium? So the key is to lighten up and to create curiosity. That's what we're trying to do, and not in a tricky way. Some of you probably read some books, heard some people talk about elevator pitches, where they kind of get a little cute and tricky around this. And I don't want to do that. I want to be straightforward, but I want to create some interest. By the way, forgive me, I'm battling a cold. I went to India for a couple of weeks. I came back. It was a long flight. I knew I was going to get sick in those close quarters with people coughing without covering their mouth, and sure enough. So forgive me for any raspy voice here or sniffling you may hear. So option number one is to talk about your why, right? So someone says, so what do you do? Well, my expertise is in personal finance. I don't recommend you say I'm an insurance agent or I'm a financial advisor or I'm a financial planner, because when you attach a title too quickly, it's going to trigger a response in the brain of the other person. It may be a good response. It may not be a good response. We don't know what it's going to trigger. So rather than identifying your title, talk about your expertise. When you talk about expertise, it allows you to come across confident. My expertise is in. Now, I know that a lot of folks have trouble saying I am an expert in. And in fact, some compliance departments don't want you to say that you're an expert, but you are allowed to say you have expertise. And that kind of softens it a little bit, just enough where I think most people feel comfortable. So my expertise is in personal finance. I'm more excited now about the work I do than ever before. And they may say, oh, why is that? That's great, right? And you could go on with that a little bit more. You're going to have to adjust these for your situation, obviously. Or I am. You could say I'm a business consultant. I have to tell you, this is a great time to be doing the work that I do, right? So you can announce your title if you want to. I tend to like the first one, is my expertise is in. Whenever people ask me, a guy asked me on the plane not that long ago, 3 weeks ago, before I went to India, he says, so what do you do? I said, well, my expertise is in business growth. I help businesses, grow their revenue without increasing their marketing budget. He says, well, that's pretty cool. How do you do that? Right? Creates curiosity. I help businesses increase their revenue without increasing their marketing budget. Now, how do you do that? Right? Well, referrals and introductions, right? It's the only strategy that can actually do that. So talk about your why is one option. Get clear on what that is. Use it. Tell a story. So I'm a financial advisor. My expertise is in personal finance. May I tell you a quick story about something that happened today, or happened last week, or happened recently, right? May I give you a quick example? This is where you bring what you do to life. In fact, whenever you talk about your value, whenever you say what you do, your quote unquote elevator pitch, always provide an example. Always say, for example. or say, let me tell you why I love what I do. Because this is what creates the human connection. This is what creates curiosity. This is what makes you real and not a walking brochure or a walking business card. And this is what's so important when you're talking about your value, really anywhere, but particularly in this case where we got to lighten up a little bit. We can't come on too heavy. Now, having fun, right? I said have fun. So I was working with a guy in Australia who's a real estate broker, and he says, I'm a fun guy. I want my fun to show through. Can I use it? How can I do it? I said, yeah, I'm very playful. I do it all the time. So, I'm a blank. I'm a financial advisor. I'm a business consultant. I'm a real estate broker, right? Or he's a mortgage broker. Although sometimes I feel like a therapist or a couples counselor, right? And he gets a laugh, and people say, yeah, I bet you get to see a lot of arguments and all that. And that's what creates curiosity in conversation. My expertise is in, I protect people from all the financial fantasy shown on TV and the internet. My friend Bill Bacharach calls it financial pornography, right? All the stuff that's on TV and Money Magazine, all that generic advice for people that really, it has some value, but not a lot because it's not targeted to the individual. So you protect people from all that. And they go, what do you mean about that? Tell me more. You're creating curiosity. The goal here is to get someone engaged, curious about what you're doing. So having fun, being passionate about it, your why, all of that will create that curiosity. Excuse me. So, I talk about having fun with referrals all the time when I'm delivering my workshops. Art is a financial advisor in Baltimore, and when Art is with his clients brainstorming for referrals, he says, we're just brainstorming here. I'm looking for about 100 people. And his clients laugh, and he goes, Art, we don't know 100 people. We didn't even have 100 people at our wedding. We only had 60. And he's going, all right, too many. How about 4 or 5? And all of a sudden 4 or 5 is not so bad, right? So that's his nature. That's his fun. He's playful. If you don't have a sense of humor, by the way, don't try these. Doug is a financial advisor in Omaha. Doug says, we're just brainstorming here. First of all, do you know any lottery winners? And his clients laugh, and they go, no, Doug, I bet you'd like it if we did, wouldn't you? And he goes, yeah, well, that's right. We're brainstorming. I got a couple ideas to run by you. So there's so many ways you can have fun with this, this process of talking about your value, asking for referrals. Let's see, to go back to the agenda, we talked about some basics. We talked a little bit about during social events, the holidays. I want to very quickly take about 2 minutes and talk to you about a way that you can pick my brain if you want to go deeper into this. And then we're going to get into, talking to friends about setting up appointments for business. So hang in there with me while I talk a little bit about this way for people to pick my brain. I always go back and forth about trying to make an offer in a webinar like this, because the whole point of this webinar is to bring you value. And I hope I'm doing that. And people ask me, how do we go deeper? So I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't at least give you a shot at this. So again, bear with me for a couple minutes, and then we'll get back into the meat of the program. So everyone needs a guide from time to time. That's a picture of me and Lemma climbing Mount Kilimanjaro a few years ago. And he was my guide to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So I created this little thing called pinpoint coaching. And what it allows us to do is to get into a very narrow area of coaching. So you don't have to sign up for my big coaching program, spend big bucks, although I'm happy to have you. This is really a way to really drill very deep into something very specific, like your value proposition. So what I'll do is I'll send you this value proposition generator. It's a 17-page worksheet that will allow you to help you come up with the value, your value proposition, a short, succinct way to talk about what you do, into what I call my value positioning statement. And then 2 coaching sessions with me, up to an hour each, or we can even break them up, and it could be more. It could be 4 30-minute sessions. And that's the way I help you hone this. I'll read what you wrote, and I'll send you back my comments, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have a bonus of a new guide we just set up called Right Fit Clients. And it's a checklist to help you determine who your right fit clients are. And if you're going to be trying to bring on more business, which you are, you wouldn't be on this webinar if you weren't, you got to know who you're trying to attract, right? And you need to be able to communicate that to other people, to your centers of influence, to your clients. So you want to make sure that you have a way to do that. So we put all this little package together here, and it's only $199. I think we priced it out at about $1,500 at one point where we charge for our coaching. But I just want to get you going with this stuff, and we can do it now. We can do it in December. We can get started in January if you want. But just make sure you go to CoachKates.com and sign up, and we'll get in touch, and we'll get this value proposition generator to you, and we'll get you really crystal clear on this sort of stuff. All right. So I'll remind you about that later again. And then the link down below to go get it is right there at CoachKates.com. So how do you talk to friends and acquaintances about business, right? To request a possible appointment. What does that go in? What goes into that? Well, first of all, you got to come from a place of believing in your value, right? You can't be too soft and wishy-washy about this. And again, it's a fine line. It's a happy medium of being confident and not being arrogant. So here's one way to do it. Here's a piece of conversation. You know, George, I've been thinking about your situation lately. I have clients who have experienced a similar challenge. You know, we never really sat down to talk business, but if you're open to it, I think I might be able to provide some ideas. No pressure to do business, just a little brainstorming. Right. So brainstorming is a great word. If you know my referral process, you know I use the word brainstorming that, because what it does, it softens the approach. It takes the pressure off. Let's just brainstorm a little bit. You know, I've been working with people like you. You know, I've seen the kind of challenges you're going through. I might have a few ideas to help you out. No pressure to do business. Let's get some brainstorming. Let's put our heads together, see if we can help you with this, right? So if you have clients that are small business owners and you're working with other business owners, a good chance you have a lot of solutions that go beyond the products and services that you offer. And that's always great when you can bring other solutions that go beyond your core work. It's just a reason to get together. And then you build the rapport. They start to see your confidence. They see your knowledge. You start to ask some good questions about their specific situation. And next thing you know, they go, wow, I didn't realize you had this depth of knowledge, right? So one way is to believe in your value. Another way is to be right up front and confess your reluctance. Have you ever wanted to say something to a significant other, a spouse, a friend? You know, Laura, I've been wanted to talk to you about this, but I'm a little reluctant because I think you're going to get mad at me. Oh yeah, what is it? Well, all right, I won't get mad. I promise I won't get mad. Okay? Yeah, okay, right. So when you confess your reluctance, people get curious, right? So and you're honest, you're being authentic, you're being transparent. George, is something I've been wanting to mention to you, but I've been a little reluctant. I didn't want you to take it the wrong way. You know, my expertise is in working with small business owners like yourself. I've been doing it for a few years. I suspect I might have some ideas worth considering. Would you be open to setting up a meeting at some point? Now, again, you may have to massage these words to make them natural for you, but you get the idea. You get the approach of what we're trying to do. We're getting some comments coming in, by the way. Peter says, I've already gotten value from this presentation. Great. Thanks, Peter. Don't keep me a secret, is what I have to say to that. And I think I have one more. The idea of social event marketing, I've done webinars on that. I'll do more on it, but I'll do a little mini one here. Social event marketing is so powerful because it allows you to connect with your clients in that human connection, right? And also allows you to connect with prospects if they bring a guest on that human connection. And then when you sit down for business later, everything's easier because you've already made that human connection. So I recommend that you get in the habit of putting on client appreciation events. And if you're new in this business, you don't have to try to impress people with money. You know, these don't have to be fancy things. I've been working with some of the top of the table wealth managers who do this sort of thing, and they're not always trying to impress folks. They just want to do something that's fun or where the food is good. So don't think it has to cost a lot of money. But if you have some friends or family members or people you've known for a long time, and you want to find a way to warm them up to having a business meeting with you, invite them to a client appreciation event or, a client bring a guest event. And what happens is they have the fun and they enjoy the ball game or whatever else you're doing, the wine, the cheese, the chocolate. But they're seeing how your clients talk about you. You see, sometimes, to our friends who we've grown up with or people we've known a long time, maybe we're a little silly with them and they don't always take us seriously. I know it happens in my situation. But when they see us do what we do in our element, in our world with our clients, and they see how our clients love us, we become attractive. They go, wow, look at how this guy's doing, how this gal's doing, right? So having these kinds of events where you can then invite someone. Let me give you a very specific example. Mike Barrett. Mike was a coaching client a couple of years ago. Mike and I stayed in touch. In fact, I had dinner with Mike not too long ago in Des Moines. And so in the coaching calls, Mike was saying, Bill, my girlfriend and I, we go to a lot of events. She gets invited to these philanthropic events. We get a lot of wine tastings. I meet a lot of very well-heeled people, but I have no idea how to bring up what I do to these people. I don't want to give my business card and say, if you need a little help, investment help, give me a call. So I go, no, you don't want to do that. So I said, tell me more about wine. He says, well, I used to write for a wine magazine. Oh, okay. And so a fair amount about wine. Yeah, I'm more than the average person. And have you ever done some wine events with your firm? He says, yeah, I've done a couple over the years. I said, this is what you want to do. Start doing quarterly wine tastings. And when you go to these other events, you invite these people that you meet. So in conversations, what he says is, hey, you join them, the cab, cabinet, why don't you try this Pinot Noir, da-da-da. And he says, I can see you like a good wine. I would love to invite you to one of my firm's wine tastings. We do them every quarter. And they go, oh, that'd be great. What do you do that you do wine tastings? And that then allows him to talk about what he does in a way that's very genuine, very natural. And then these people come to these events and they're around his other clients and they see the kind of relationship he's developed with other clients. And a lot of that turns into business. In fact, his business went up 60% in the time we were working together. Please show option 1 again. All right, let me go back up. We have a request. I take requests. So option 1 is to believe in your value, right? So, you got to pay attention to what's happening in your friends and family members' lives. But if you can latch on to what you see they're going through, what's going on, I've seen, we have a lot of clients I've worked with a lot of clients who've been through a similar situation that you're going through right now. We do a lot of work with folks. Look, I'm not here to try to turn you into a client, but I do want to help you. Let's get together at some point, we'll brainstorm a little bit, see what might be right for your situation, right? You take the sale out of the way, right? No pressure to do business. You see the words there, no pressure to do business. There's no sale involved here. You really are genuinely wanting to help these people, but you're getting a chance to do what you do. You're getting a chance to do what you're so good at that maybe they haven't experienced from you before. You're doing it in the context of no pressure. You're not trying to turn them into a client, but they see your value and they experience your value. Some of those people will want to become clients, not every one of them, but you're also becoming referable in the eyes of other people, right? How are you going to get friends and people who haven't experienced your work to refer you? Well, you got to become referable. So that's the first one, is believe in your value, confess your reluctance. So we're coming up to the Q&A part here. I just want to remind you, Coach Kate's offer there. This is a fun thing. I love to do it with folks. I know you'll find this very valuable. It's very affordable, obviously, and we'll work together and we'll make it work for you, right? And it says 30, 40 minutes on the coaching calls. I just do whatever it takes to make you happy, right? I mean, if we got to do a third call, we'll do a third call. I don't care. I just want you to find value from this. We'll get you started with a radical relevance value proposition generator, and then we'll set up our first call, and then we'll talk and we'll see what you come up with, and then we'll set up our next call and get you going into a great new year. So I did get a question. Thank you, Crystal. Says it's an awesome opportunity. Let's see. So we had a question from a gentleman who came in last night, actually, after I sent out an email to a lot of folks on the list here. He says, I'm a recent college graduate. Please cover ways to show your value and gain trust from potential clients while being so young. The financial services industry is dominated by people who have been doing financial planning since before I was born. Yeah, that'd be me. I need a solid response when people say, but you're young and experienced. So I'm going to give you a couple of thoughts here. First of all, you gotta get out of this mind construct that the fact that you're young is a problem. Um, so let me tell you a story about a guy, Bruce Bordelin. When I met him, he was out in San Francisco, but he's gone back to the New Orleans area. And he's one of those guys who has kind of a baby face, right? Like the Dick Clark, American Bandstand, one of those people that just looks young forever. But he got started. He was very young. He was just out of school, and he could see when people would come into his office, he could actually see a physical reaction on prospects that he'd never met before because he looked young. He just immediately saw it. He felt it. It was there. It was in the room. You couldn't ignore it. And so what he would say, he'd sit down with them and say, look, I know when you got here, I saw it. You go, yeah, this guy looks young. And first of all, I'm not as young as you think, and I'm pretty good at what I do. And so I know you're in good hands. Trust me, right? Something like that. But then when he had people refer him, he'd say, look, when you talk to people about me, tell them I'm young, but I'm really smart. And that's what his clients would do. They'd nip that little objection, if you want to call it that, that concern in the bud by saying, look, he's on the young side, but he's a really smart guy. He's really going places. So you got to get out of that mind construct of being new. So obviously, I don't know your full situation here, but this is where you need to talk as a team, and sell yourself as a team. I assume you're part of a bigger firm. You have some other specialists that can come out with you, people that can cover appointments for you. If not, you got to find a different situation, because it's hard getting started with this without a mentor, without people to help you cover appointments, without specialists to help you. And you want to sell that. You want to sell the team. It's always a we scenario. It's not an I scenario. It's a we scenario. So that they meet you, they meet your associates, they meet your partners, right? Whatever word you want to use. And so it's always a we situation. And you may say to someone, look, I'm going to come out, I'm going to learn a little bit about your situation. I'm kind of the point person here. We're going to figure out where you are, what it looks like, where you need to go. And then I'm going to tap into my team, and I'm going to find the right people to work on your situation. Together, we'll make sure you get the right solution to your situation, right? So it's always making it about the team. You're selling the we. That's the most important. And you'll get past that. But you can't assume that. Now, if someone says, but you're young and inexperienced, typo on you are, yeah, by the way, whenever there's an objection, this is true for any kind of objection, by the way, whenever there's any kind of an objection that is going to come to the table, bring it up yourself. Don't wait for it to come up. So you can handle it on your own terms, on your own timing. And so if you see people do a little double take, you say, I know you weren't expecting a guy that's so young, but I got to tell you, I'm a natural when it comes to this. Don't worry, you're in good hands, and I've got a team behind me. Things like that. So always, always, always sell the way. So I hope that helps a little bit. Any other questions coming in? So from Donna, she says, the flip side of the question is, what do you say when asked by a prospect, how long will you remain in the business? This is a good question, Donna. In fact, I asked that of my advisor about 15 years ago, and he just retired. Are you thinking of retiring soon? And so if you're maybe 5 to 10 years from retirement, hopefully you're thinking about your, what's going to happen next, right? You're thinking about the transfer of power, so to speak. If you're at that point where people are starting to wonder, you better have a plan in place, and you want to have someone that will be taking over from you. And I know that's not always an easy thing to do, and to find that right person is going to be able to take over. But you got to know what that legacy is going to look like, how it's going to transfer, that transfer of power, so to speak, and get those people involved sooner than later, so that when when the transfer does happen, it's a very smooth process. I'll tell you one thing from my advisor: what he didn't do well is he did not bring in his backup, his who was taking over for him, as quickly and early in the relationship as he could have. He just put it off. I don't know why. I don't know if he felt funny about it, but the transfer was not great. Luckily, Aaron, the guy who got transferred, was great. I love him. He's smart. He's capable. He's got a big boat, and we ride bicycles together. But you know, if I had to say, you know, what was the mistake that was made there, is he didn't have the transition group either in place, or he didn't start making the transition soon enough. So, I mean, otherwise you are going to run into that situation where if you think you're going to retire from in 5 years, and you don't have a 5-year plan in place, then, you know, you may lose some folks. Now, for some folks, you may say, look, we're going to have a plan. We're going to make sure you're in good hands. We'll take care of you great, da, da, da. That may be enough for some people, but I think it's the kind of thing you want to start working on. Jim says, wow, I work with a young guy who picks up his phone and pretends to talk with his mom to keep dinner warm, and he'll be wearing his Spider-Man pajamas. I work with a young guy who picks up, I don't understand that, but I guess that's funny. My team specializes in transition. We would be very happy to assist. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Corey. Well, helping the other person. Okay. Well, Corey, you know, shoot me the information over in an email, bill@referralcoach.com or bill.cates@referralcoach.com, and I'll share it with people. I don't know Corey. I'm not endorsing him, but I'm happy to share the wealth. Any other questions, guys? I don't see any questions coming on. So I hope you found this helpful. We are recording it. Would love to get you into Coach Cates and do that pinpoint coaching to help you with this a little bit more. Make sure you go to client multiplication to get that free download, that free e-guide that we just put. We're going to be doing webinars a little more regularly in 2019. We kind of got off it for a little while because I've been working hard to write my new book, Radical Relevance, and hopefully have that out in early 2019. So, you know, when you see this, please pass the word. We try to give value. Yeah, we do these for free, so I may make an offer. I may let people know about something that we're offering, because I'm in business too, just like you are. But I do believe in leading with value first. And when I lead with value, then enough people want to go a little deeper. So that's why we do what we do. So, oh, somebody's got a question. Is it coming? Is it coming? Stay with me, Todd. Yes. Oh, here's one. Any alternatives to parties if your clients are nationwide, virtual events? Yeah, that's obviously a little tougher. The virtual events usually are going to be in more of an educational forum. It could be a webinar. It could be, I usually have my picture going here, but I've got a cold and I just look like a mess from my big long trip. And I'm not working in the main part of my office, so I don't get my employees sick. But if you do a video conference, if you use Zoom and you do something of knowledge, and it doesn't have to be around financial services. It doesn't have to be financial work. It could be around longevity. It could be around, you know, health. It could be lots of kinds of things that you think your clients might be interested in. You can do a virtual event. It's not quite the same because you're not going to create that in-person connection, but we do want to keep connecting with our clients, and we want to connect with our clients in a lot of different ways. And we want to have the value connection, the human connection. That's why I usually use my camera for these webinars, because that adds a little bit to the human connection. So you can see my mug talking at you. All right, so we got a bunch of questions just came in here, guys. So stay with me if you can. You're welcome, Mary. What about addressing how's business with a large group or at a dinner table? Well, I think you got to keep it short. But you could say, look, business is great. We're doing a lot of important work for our clients. I love what I do. If you got a funny story, a little something that was funny, or something that everyone can relate to, take another minute to tell that. But if it's in front of a whole group, then you got to be, because you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I love it more now than ever before. Now it's just a great time to be doing the work I do. And that's about as far as you can go in a whole big group like that. Because then if you don't cut it off right about there, then it's going to feel like you're getting into your pitch, right? And you don't want to do that. So let's see. From Emmanuel, it says the training thrust in financial advice industry tends to go heavyweight on extrovert behaviors and approaches. I see that would be useful and popular much of the time, but many of us are more introvert. I hear you. A more introverted, thoughtful personality. What's a better way to capitalize on introvert strengths? Well, I got to tell you, Emmanuel, I am actually an introvert. I know it may not seem like it. I give speeches to thousands of people, and I run workshops, and I do this. I actually am an introvert. You put me in a networking situation, where I don't know anybody and I'm not there to deliver a speech. I'm standing in the corner, right? I'm very thoughtful, introverted like that. And I have learned to overcome that and gear up my energy for the right situation and let the adrenaline kick in. I've worked with many financial folks over the years who struggle with doing the social event thing because it's just not their nature to hang out in social events and with folks. And what they do is they either have a spouse or they have someone on their team who can make up for some of that. It could be a marketing assistant. It could be a partner. It could be any person who is a little more extroverted, and they become kind of the co-host to an event. So see if you can get a co-host for your event if you're going to do events as an introvert, and that co-host can really help you. And you don't have to be the lead dog, so to speak, in all of this. Here's a question: had to strike up a conversation about what you do, or how do you strike up a conversation about what you do if you're out doing either walk and talks or shopping and you're standing in the checkout line? I'm an introvert. I don't talk to people in the checkout line. No, I think it's all the same. I mean, if somebody says, "What do you do?" If someone says, that's usually what do you do? What do you do for a living, right? You say, well, my expertise is in this. If you can come up with something fun, like the mortgage broker says, but I'm a mortgage broker, but most of the time I feel like I'm a marriage counselor, right? That's going to get us a laugh, and they're going to say, "Tell me more about that." And then you get into a fun conversation, then you can slowly talk a little more about what you do. And you can shift from the fun. You can say, I know we're having fun about this, but seriously, I really do believe in the work I do. I do important work for folks, and come from that place. And you're just trying to get people to open up and create a sense of curiosity. So what if you're a solo practitioner regarding the acquisition of succession? Well, you got to find somebody. I mean, that's it. You got to find somebody. Otherwise, it dies, right? I mean, you can sell the business. And so if you're going to sell the business, then it's time to start looking for someone who's going to buy it. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in that no man's land. And that's the tough place. And you may lose a few people if you're in no man's land, if you don't have a succession plan in place. And you're getting to the point where people might wonder how long you're going to be at it. You're going to be in no man's land, and or no woman's land, either one. And so you really want to work on having a plan and letting people know what it is. Otherwise, you'll lose some. Now, you're not going to lose everybody. Not everybody's going to wonder that. Not everybody's going to ask you that. So it doesn't mean stop trying to bring on new clients. Generating corporate referrals. Thanks, June. I'm getting some nice comments. Merci from Andre. Generating corporate referrals and the best approach to garner an appointment, and then the process. Corporate, I assume you're talking about B2B. The situation with B2B is really the same as B2C. It really is all the same. Business to business is still business to person. It's still, you're still a business to person. So, I'm just trying to think of there really isn't any differentiation. The neat thing in B2B sales, if you're doing group benefits or 401k plans or anything like that, is usually you're not talking about someone's personal finance, and it actually referrals get even easier. So if Stephen, if you want to send me an email separate from this, we can talk about your situation a little bit more. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I'm probably not. That's why I put my email address up there, billcates@referralcoach.com. So if you have a question, something comes up to you later, just let me know. All right, guys, I have got to get going. We're about out of time. I think we're out of questions. Stephen, will do. Great. All right, guys, I will send the recording to everybody, and I'll reiterate the offer, and I'll make sure you sign up for client multiplication so you can get that ebook. And have a wonderful holiday season. Whatever holidays you celebrate coming up, I hope they're safe. I hope they're happy. I hope you finish the year strong, and just be on the lookout for us promoting some webinars in next year. And my new book, Radical Relevance, will be out next year. It's all around this value proposition stuff. Thanks, everybody. You take care.